New head coach Mike Leach. Again, as we've been doing, if you have a question, so put your name in the chat and I'll call on you. Other than that, we'd ask you to keep your mics muted and you can unmute yourself when it comes time for you to ask the question. We'll start with Ben Portnoy.
Hey, Mike, just real quick housekeeping. Any update on what Kylan's status is, and do you kind of expect him to be able to play this weekend?
No update. No update. He's still unavailable.
Joel?
I know that you said that it would be kind of a battle, I guess, at quarterback leading into the Alabama game. Just to this point, what's kind of your thoughts on where KJ and Will stand headed into this week?
I think they're neck and neck, and we'll continue to split the reps this week for the first couple practices. All right. Well, it's great talking to you guys.
We go back to Joel.
I know that Fred Peters had mentioned, that he was going to be out for a while. What's kind of the plan there at safety with a guy that had been getting a ton of reps back there? What's kind of the plan to fill in for Fred?
Kind of a committee right now. We've got a number of guys doing some pretty good stuff, but like I say, we're trying to refine the position, and we got a committee doing pretty good. So I don't know if Zach's going to maintain the committee or if he's got a specific one. I suspect it'll be a couple guys.
We'll go to John.
Mike, based on the tape from Alabama, obviously, you've been coaching for a while. Where does this Crimson Tide team kind of rank compared to every other team you've coached in terms of quality? Do you think this is one of the best teams that you've ever played against? Yeah,
I think so. They're fast, and occasionally I've played against some really fast teams that weren't as big as others. But these guys they're big, they're fast, and the thing is most of their players we're already familiar with in the recruiting process. They're the guys that hovered around the top of the lists. So
Go to Robbie.
Hey, Coach, what's been the focus the last couple of weeks, especially last week, for your guys to have that bye week and an opportunity to get the team together and maybe not game plan per se for Alabama, but what was the focus, I guess, for you as a coach and for the coaches the last week, and what's the focus this week beyond just the Alabama game plan?
Well, we're young enough. It was fundamentals. It was fundamentals and then more fundamentals. And we had some good hard practices. We did some good on good, which I thought was beneficial to us. I thought it was very competitive. So I did see progress. I did appreciate the effort our guys gave. But I think, we're still a work in progress. We've got to just keep taking steps and improving.
Gary? Gary, we can't hear you, man.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Hey, Coach, how patient are you with your quarterbacks and letting them kind of learn your system, especially now? I mean, you're a few games in and you've had to change. And now have you had a chance to look at their different talents and how they work in your offense?
I'm not sure what the question is, but long story short, I think the more exposure they have, the better. Both guys have performed well in practice, and I don't really like splitting reps with quarterbacks. I like to settle on one. I would prefer that approach, but we've been awfully up and down, and so we need to figure out who gives us the best spark. So it's definitely competitive at the position this week.
Go back to John.
Mike, how do you kind of contain a guy like Mac Jones, and what have you really seen from him on the tape that impresses you?
Everything I've seen on the tape impresses me. I think that you just have to play. You have to play real sound. Just play real sound. That's the biggest thing. Is you got to worry about yourself and just play sound and have all the all the gaps and spaces filled.
Go back to Ben.
Mike, I think we asked about this last week, but does Jalen Maiden factor into this competition at all, or do you still feel like KJ and Will are still ahead of him, or where does he kind of fit into the pecking order?
Well, right now it's a battle between KJ and Will. Yeah.
Robbie.
We've talked about the quarterbacks a lot, but what's your thoughts on how the wide receivers have handled the first few games and the first couple of months in your system? How have they kind of transferred over from the spread offense to just the general air raid, and also the guys that have been mixing it in? How have you felt like your depth has come across the last few weeks?
I think we're improving. I think we've been inconsistent. I think there's been flashes that were really good. The biggest thing I think that we're battling is the inconsistency. We've got to be consistent. It's a lot like I said in the first press conference. We're explosive but inconsistent. We're getting more consistent, but that's the biggest thing. I mean, great teams are always consistent, and we've got to be that. We've got to be a very consistent team, and in particular, we've got to play better when we're away from the ball. In other words, whether you're getting the route or not, stretch the field. If you're called upon to block, get a great block. I mean, we do the big things pretty good. We got to do the little things consistently.
John.
You mentioned KJ and Will being neck and neck. Would let's say if Will were to win the starting job, would playing on a stage like that big in a place like Alabama with such a good team, would that kind of be concerning for you, considering he has such little experience to kind of throw him into that situation? Or
well, I'm already concerned with it, so I don't know if it makes it more concerning. I mean, but the biggest thing is for any quarterback, regardless of the stage, just worry about what you can do, and as a team, we've got to be guys that are able to do that. Just, worry about ourselves, and just know your best is always enough, because that's what you got, and go out there and just focus on doing your best in all settings. And then, as that builds and, over time and everybody together, well, then you get better and better as a group. So
Go back to Joel.
You mentioned earlier that you guys have done some good on good over the bye week, and the last couple of weeks, the offensive line, of course, has kind of been a concern. Just how did the offensive line, I guess, hold its own in practice the last week or so, going good on good? And I guess what's kind of your level of confidence in that group headed into Tuscaloosa on Saturday?
Well, our problem there is consistency as well. When we play well, we play real well. And it was very competitive, both sides in the course of the off week. And the biggest thing we got to do is consistently communicate. I think that some of our problems have been communication errors. I think that we've got three guys that haven't played hardly at all before, and so then. But we've used the week to try to get better at communicating and getting everybody where they need to be at the right time. And then, I've got a few guys that don't play particularly well when they're tired. So I think we got to work through that, and also be mindful of when we ought to replace somebody for them too, and because some of these guys aren't fighting through the fatigue like they might, which if we'd had the full off season might have been beneficial for that as well.
Go back to Ben.
Mike, I guess it was 2017 where you split a little bit of time between Luke Falk and Tyler Alinsky. How much does this kind of thing between Will and KJ profile similarly, differently? Are they kind of just different scenarios?
I think it's a little different, but it's the same thing. I mean, you're looking for the guy that can run the unit the best. You don't want to go out there and have some stagnant effort on offense, not really uninspired, but just not playing together as well. And so you're always looking for something to spike that or to spark that. And I think that from that standpoint, it's similar.
Robbie?
Coach, do you have an update on CJ Morgan's status as far as rehabbing from his injury? We haven't asked about that in a while. And with Fred Peters' injury, was just wondering if he's going to be able to be available at any point this year.
Not sure on Fred. CJ, we don't have an update on him.
Anything else, guys? We'll go to Tyler.
Yeah, Mike, I know we've talked a lot about the splitting reps thing, and I know you said earlier that you don't like it at quarterback, obviously. Is there a timetable throughout the rest of this season where you would hope that, I mean, obviously now being the fifth game of the year, you'd hope you'd have a solidified starter, but is this something that you could see going throughout the next 5 games as it kind of has the last 3?
I hope not, but it could. It could. You try to get that thing settled in, and over the years, at least from my experience, we've been able to do it most of the time. But right now, we got 2 guys that are fairly comparable, and I think that they've got to battle it out, and we'll see.
Got time for just a few more. Anything else? Still with Tyler?
Yeah, Mike, I know Joel just asked about the offensive line, but just, taking practice out of it and what you've seen on the playing field with those guys, is it get to a point where it doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback, and if that guy can't stay upright and he's always running, maybe it's not on the quarterback at that point?
Well, I think we've got several things like that, and like I say, we're working through it, and there's the incremental improvements. But if you're back and forth at receiver, back and forth at the offensive line, back and forth at the quarterback, I mean, you're going to be inconsistent because we are, and about the time the O-line's protecting really well, all of a sudden, we got receivers busting routes or not doing what they're supposed to do. About the time they're doing what they're supposed to do and the offensive line's blocking well, quarterback doesn't have his eyes in the right place. About the time he's got his eyes in the right place and is ready to throw a good ball, he's getting hit. So, I mean, it's being passed around. It's not just on the quarterback, as you mentioned. It's definitely the O-line has a role on it. The receivers definitely have a role in it. The quarterbacks definitely have a role in it. And the backs, which is kind of in between. So, yeah.
All right, that'll do it for us. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.